Aloha! Welcome to the Live Ukulele podcast. My name is Brad Bordessa. Thank you for tuning in to the first interview of 2025, Season 6 of the Live Ukulele podcast. And this episode, I'm featuring a discussion with Victoria of Jiggy with Viggy fame. Before we get into that, though, a couple of little updates. I've been trying to post more regularly on my YouTube channel, so if you're not subscribed over there, please go give it a look and see what's going on. Of course, as soon as I make that goal to try and post something once a week, my webcam USB adapter decided to die, and it was shorting out and freezing up all of my USB ports. So that was great. And now I'm using a different one that doesn't seem to have the throughput of the original, so I can only record in a lower resolution. So waiting on a replacement to get back on the video train. But until then, you can check out the stuff I have been posting up. I put up a happy birthday tutorial because why not? And then there's also a quick start guide for folks who got an ukulele recently, Christmas time and all that, but should be good general information for new players. And then something on baritone transposing, how to think about the philosophy of moving music onto baritone and utilizing other resources. Also a video on getting a better picking tone from your fingers and your fingernails on your right hand. I've also jumped onto Blue Sky, which seems like new school Twitter minus the bad vibes and trolls. If you want to check out what's going on over there, it's still kind of quiet on the ukulele side of things, but I'm going to try and lean into it because it seems like it's growing pretty quickly. I am at bradbordessa.bsky.social. Can't miss it. Go ahead and follow me and see if we can connect on a new platform and be ahead of the curve for once. Maybe. If you are a new listener to the podcast, want to extend a big welcome to you and encourage you to go check out liveukulele.com. That is the home base for all of my ukulele teaching content. And liveukulele.com/store is the home to all of my ebooks and video lessons. You go check stuff out over there. It's a great way to get some inspiring new material, to learn some fundamentals of the ukulele. I think I've got some pretty unique angles on ways to play and technique and, how to become a more confident player from the perspective of approaching the ukulele like a serious instrument. I'm not into, learn to play the ukulele and impress your friend in 5 minutes. That's not so much my thing, though I appreciate the value of that. I'm more interested in deep dives and really getting into the meat and potatoes of what makes the instrument work. So if you want to understand what's going on, check out liveukulele.com/store and see what resonates with you over there. I do have a new ebook that is done, but the rest of the process is in the works. It's called Plug In, and it is about amplifying your ukulele. So if you have a little amp, or you have some pedals, or you go to an open mic night, whatever it might be where you're experiencing an instrument cable getting plugged into your ukulele or needing an instrument cable to plug into your ukulele, this guide is going to be a great help in understanding what the heck is happening technically, though in easy to understand terms, and it just guides you through setting things up and choosing the right components without breaking the bank, getting the most bang for your buck, and not just kind of squandering money on, this might be cool, because I've done a lot of those things, and I try and bring that perspective to the book of like, here's the good stuff, this is what you need, this is what you don't need, and try and present some pathways to getting a great ukulele sound, and talk about how to adjust knobs and change the EQ on your ukulele so it sounds better, how to set reverbs and delays and stuff like that. And I'm really excited about it. I don't know how much interest there will be because it's a little bit of an obscure thing that is reserved for folks who are a little bit more confident in their playing, or maybe you're just having fun jamming in your bedroom with your amp and you want to learn more about it. But I felt like it was something that I can really offer a lot of my experience to, because I have a lot of experience in that, and it's something that I'm passionate about, getting that great ukulele sound. But it's also something that I just needed to get out of my system. So now it's done. It should be releasing next month in February, I'm looking at. Putting together all of the launch material, and we'll go from there. Looking forward to sharing that out with folks, and I think it'll be super helpful if you engage in that side of music, the performance, or just being loud in your bedroom. Either way you cut it, it should be a fun resource. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. I sat down with Victoria last week to record this interview, had a great discussion, had a nice time, super great to make that connection and get to know her, and looking forward to sharing it with you folks. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and while you're at it, check out jiggywithviggy.com or at jiggywithviggy on your favorite social media platforms. Well, I know for my listeners who maybe aren't familiar with you, the first thing that rings right off the bat that everybody's like, what's with the name? Can you start there and let us in on the secret?
Yeah, so Jiggy with Viggy is a combination of a few things. So first we'll start with the Viggy. We'll start at the end there. So my real name is Victoria, and I'm born and raised on Long Island, New York. So I have a little bit of the New York accent. Maybe not as clear with me, but definitely with my family members. And Viggy comes from the nickname Vicky with the New York accent. So kind of sped up, kind of syllables bunched together there. So we got Viggy. And when it came time to kind of establishing like my online presence, I really love silly phrases, things that rhyme and stuff like that. So I was trying to come up with something that kind of combined Victoria with maybe the ukulele, and there was some name workshopping that was going on there, and then I kind of went the nickname route, and my partner who was sitting next to me was like, well, Viggy's kind of fun, because people don't really go by that, like, in terms of nicknames for Victoria, and I was like, that's a good point, and then we kind of were just spitballing stuff back and forth until he was like, how about Jiggy with Viggy? And I was like, the light bulb went off, the fireworks went off, I went, that's it. I think that's what we'll go with. So, and from there, being Jiggy when it comes to music has kind of, I've made it into some sort of a mindset, a frame of mind to be in when I approach playing and teaching and stuff like that. Just kind of always having fun and keeping a really positive attitude with what I'm doing. So that's the antithesis of Jiggy with Viggy.
Nice. So I'm feeling old over here. Jiggy, is that a hip new term that I'm not super familiar with, or is it like a Will Smith reference? Like where are we at with that?
Yeah, I guess it's a little Will Smith. You know, it's just getting jiggy with it. It's just kind of like just getting jiggy, just letting loose, having fun, and then with me when it comes to music. So, so yeah, that's what it's all about.
Cool. So you talk about your social media presence, and like that's how a lot of people know you. You came to that via COVID, kind of, sort of?
Yeah, I would date that to probably COVID, when we all had nothing going on. At that time in my life, I had just, it's actually great timing, I would say. About 2 weeks before the pandemic, I decided to drop out of film school, which is the stereotype anyway, right? But I really was not really feeling it too much anymore, and I was just sitting around, didn't really know where to go next. But I always really loved the uke, and I had played it when I was in high school, but then kind of branched off when it came time to go to college. So my creative film stuff kind of took the place of the uke for a few years. But I was sitting at this point when I didn't have film anymore, and I was like, I think I should get back into that. I should get back into the uke. And from there, I just kind of, to keep myself playing, I was just recording little noodles and stuff and just throwing them online, like really carefree, didn't really care if I missed a note or whatever. And more people just kind of kept watching and thought what I was doing was cool. And from there, people started asking, how'd you do that? Can you explain how you did that? And I really fell into teaching that way. And using my film production experience to help with my video editing and stuff like that when it came to social media content creation, if we call it that. Right. That's kind of where it all started. So it was definitely like a COVID project. And then from there, it really took off. And I just really started getting into making tutorials, making fingerstyle covers of songs that I liked, partially out of necessity that a lot of the music I was listening to, I couldn't find tabs for online. So I was like, I'll do it. I'll arrange it. I'll kind of figure it out. So I've been pretty much full steam ahead with the uke stuff, like for real, probably since about COVID. Yeah. Doing the social media stuff, doing my own like fingerstyle arrangements of things. And it's been really amazing to see it grow. I mean, the audience that I have now is like insane, and I can't really think about that many people exist to know who I am without kind of like freaking out about it a little bit. Right. But it's very, really, really cool. I'm really grateful for it, and I just really love doing it. I've kind of kept that carefreeness from when I started going all this time. Like I really like to leave in like little blips here and there, or like if I am like, oh, whatever, and I just kind of keep going. And I think that's another part of like what being Jiggy is kind of just embracing all of the steps when it comes to learning something, and just kind of just having fun. As long as you're having fun with it, that's really my whole thing. I just like to have fun. Yeah. So that's kind of how it started. Definitely a COVID thing, but I took advantage of the time I had off and made it what it is now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the success.
Thank you.
I think it's really cool that you say like you leave blips in, because especially with the social media age, we get this impression that like everything's perfect and everybody comes through all auto-tuned or whatever. And so people coming to the instrument, ukulele is kind of a hobby instrument
right.
on the spectrum, right? It's fun, it's easy to get into. But folks see pristine performances on YouTube and social media and stuff, and they kind of panic like, why doesn't mine sound like that? I think it's cool that you kind of give the perspective of like it's a real experience in the moment. And I think if we aren't careful, it'd be really easy to lose kind of the beauty of what music is. It's just like that impromptu expression of feelings and everything else that comes along with music.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
That's very cool.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So what is your background in music?
Yeah, so
were you? Oh. I listened to one of your interviews, and heard that you played in high school. Mm-hmm. But was there music before that?
Yes. So the very first instrument I picked up was the alto saxophone in 4th grade. I was one of like, I think 2 or 3 female alto saxophonists in 3rd grade. And I played that all the way up until junior high, where I switched to tenor sax, which was like my bread and butter. I loved the tenor when I switched to it. And when I hit 9th grade was when the ukulele came in, but still in my classical band, we'll say, my regular band career, we'll say, again, in high school. That was when I got really into the pit orchestra, and I was playing in our little pit for the musicals that we'd put on. And cool. When I hit 9th grade, I got this real urge to like learn a lot of stuff, and it was kind of through the need and necessity of some of the instruments we needed in pit orchestra, because a lot of the instruments in classical band are like in the same key, so they read the same music, right? So like tenor sax is in B flat, so clarinets can read it too and stuff. And there were certain cases where they'd be like, oh, we need like a 4th clarinet to do this or whatever. And I was like, well, I'm already reading the music, and it's also a reed instrument, so like maybe I could figure out the clarinet. And like I would kind of take a clarinet home and like teach it to myself, and at the time it was just enough to play the 8 measures they needed in whatever, right? But then I just kind of really loved that discovery of being able to kind of like find something else that was adjacent to what I knew how to do, and then like learn a new instrument from there. So I got really into kind of learning a bunch of different like reed instruments in my high school days and stuff. Still playing the tenor sax, of course, in jazz band and things all the way through till graduation. But my favorite instrument that I learned, I don't do anything with it anymore, but the story is funny. Our bands were split up into underclassmen and then the upperclassmen. And when I was in 9th grade, I caught wind in our department that, pun intended, that the 11th and 12th grade band was going to do a 6-movement Star Wars suite. Now, little old me went, I need to be in there. I don't know. I will fight tooth and nail. And the underclassmen don't play with that band. Like, that's just how it works. And I went, no, I need to be in there somehow. So I heard from them that they had a bassoon part that was pretty elaborate for this Star Wars suite. Me never having played a bassoon in my life went, I'll do it. And they were like, are you sure? And I went, do you have one? Like, I'll learn it. And they were like, okay. And they just kind of thought I was nuts. And they had a dusty bassoon stuffed in like a closet that they pulled out. And they went, here you go. Here's one single double reed. Try it and see what happens. And I went home that weekend. I went on YouTube, typed in how to play bassoon. And I did it for the next 4 years of high school. I played bassoon in my concert band. And I did make it in time to do the Star Wars suite. And it was really fun. And I was terrified because, again, I was like an okay bassoon player. But to do that, I was like, that was really awesome. So I played, in terms of main instruments, I guess we'll say, I played bassoon for my final 4 years of high school. I played saxophone from 4th grade up until then. And eventually I picked up the bari sax also, which is really fun. But yeah, I played a lot of like kind of one-off instruments around throughout the pit orchestra and stuff like that. Whenever they needed like extra little parts here, I kind of was able to pick stuff up fairly quickly, which was very cool to find out that I could do that. So yeah, very musical, I would say. I have a pretty musical family. My sister's in college right now for French horn, and my dad and my brother are also broke drummers. So we were raised in a very musically noisy household, which is a good thing.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I never really, with all of that though, I was never super drawn to like going the classical route with music in like college or anything like that. It was just a little too competitive for me. I just really liked to play and like to be in the pit orchestras or the jazz bands with like my fellow musicians. But like when it was going away to college, it was like, okay, well, you need to like pass this test and this person's going to grade you. And this, now you're like fighting for positions for whatever. And I was just like, guys, I'm not having fun anymore. Like what's going on? So I kind of saw that before I graduated and was like, okay, I don't think I want to, and definitely not with bassoon. I was like, probably not with that. So some of that stuff definitely did get left in high school, but I do really love music, always have, and I'm really happy that I can do it in some way with the uke. And like I said, the uke was always kind of on the back burner too while I was doing all of that. And as I was heading towards graduation, one thing that I always said was like, I wish I could major in this, but I guess I can't, so I better go find something else to do. So in a way, I kind of majored in the uke at the end of the day. So that's kind of a win for me.
Cool.
But yeah, so that's a little bit about all my music shenanigans that I've I've had.
So have you found that much of your like other instruments have translated onto ukulele and informed that? If so, like what are some things that do you relate anything on the ukulele to like a bassoon part or how you would play?
Interesting. I think playing the bassoon gave me an appreciation for like pedal tones, but also like lower voicings and stuff like that. So when I consider myself pretty much a high G player, but in my time, of course, I have a low G and I have a baritone and stuff. And I think playing such lower toned instruments in high school and the tenor sax to a degree as well kind of gave me an appreciation for like bass lines and like always kind of like underlying melodies that might be happening underneath the main melody and stuff. So when it came time to transcribing and arranging my own pieces, I really listened to like the whole song when I'm doing it. So not just like, I won't focus on just the main melody, but if there's something else kind of going on underneath in like a lower voicing, I try to pick that up too. So I think some of the lower stuff probably influenced a little bit more of my yukin. But yeah, that's a cool question. I never like thought about it like that. So thank you for that. That's a really cool question.
Yeah, of course. So when you put your arrangements together, I watched your Reno Ukefest set.
Oh, cool.
which is cool.
Thank you.
But all arrangements of fairly popular songs. Mm-hmm. How are you if your brain is like, oh, there's a low part, how are you choosing like what gets put onto the ukulele at any given time?
Right.
Because a lot of people they're like focused on the melody and like maybe putting some chords in there if they're technically capable, which you are. But like, in addition to that, are you trying to put low parts on the ukulele as well, or imply those?
Yeah, if it's in the song and it services the main melody still and I'm able to grab it, I would say yeah. A big example I think that I have of that is I transcribed Jake Shimabukuro's Eleanor Rigby, and it's mostly how he plays it, but I've added a few things in it. Also, as a Beatles nut, I love all like the little things that they have going on too. And specifically in the second verse, the cello line comes through after Paul sings the main melody. I'll show you. Do you mind?
Go for it. I'd love to hear it.
So like in the first time he plays it around, of course, is like I'm in tune. Okay. I have original. Okay, sorry. I wasn't prepped, but I had to make sure I had original sound on, but I'm good. So the first time around is just straightforward. But the second time the verse comes around, there's this really awesome darning it's up. There's a really sneaky little C major scale that the cello does. So when I play that arrangement, I add that in. And there's another one in there. It's same song. The I think it's the violin part, that comes in the second time the chorus comes around. So it's a... So kind of adding like some of those auxiliary instruments that lie in a song, if I can grab it and it doesn't make the arrangement completely insane, I like to incorporate as much as I can. So whether high or low, I guess. But if it's lower, that makes it pretty cool. Like the first one and that one. And then if I have the allowance to go pretty high, I try that too. So I think I go for the lower stuff if the main melody kind of is being either held out or takes a backseat for a moment. In the instrumental sections is where I kind of like to add some extra things. I'm in terms of arranging stuff, I kind of like to keep moving. Like, so like if something kind of is like held out, I'll like maybe fill it in with more strums or something, or do that. My arrangements kind of they keep going. I have no half notes, no whole notes. We keep it moving.
Okay.
So that's definitely just a me thing, a style I've developed after doing it. But that was a long answer to your question. So yeah, I do incorporate stuff.
Cool. How did you come across your arranging style? Like, have you just picked it up over time? What kinds of things? Because I noticed the songs that you were doing are original to you arrangements. I haven't really heard other ukulele players play them. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm super hip or seeing a whole lot of stuff come through, but your takes are very original on them. So, like biting off one of those classic songs to get to that point, you've worked through a lot of other material to develop that style. What was that process like to get here?
Yeah, so I put the challenge on myself when I started arranging stuff to arrange one song a week. And I've been doing that for 4 years. So I've definitely gone through some arrangement styles and shifts in my 4 years of doing it. But I mean, my main source of inspo is probably James Hill. Just because if we kind of think, you sort of mentioned there's like a spectrum to music and arrangements and stuff. I think there's like the really intricate finger picky chord melody, and then there's like strummy chord melody. And you can kind of, again, depending on what the song is and how you want the song to reflect on the instrument, you can kind of fall somewhere in there. But I think I saw James Hill's arrangement of Viva La Vida by Coldplay really early on and was like, I locked in. I was like, that's the goal one day, but I don't know what I'm doing. So that was really the antithesis for me to want to start arranging stuff, I think. I definitely, like I mentioned, I also like to keep moving. So definitely strummier, a little more than finger picky. And I definitely went through, the more I learned about the instrument, the more my arrangements were able to develop and be a little bit more clean. So when I first started arranging stuff, I actually wasn't too comfortable with moving chords up the neck. So whenever I had like the main melody being somewhere near the 9th fret, but my chord was B minor, I was like, well, I guess this song won't work because I can't move my B minor at all. But once I started to learn like my chord inversions and my movable shapes and stuff, I was like, oh, this just, like they all say, this unlocked this whole part of the fretboard, right? So once I learned more about the instrument and really like sat with it, it really helped to further my arrangements, I think, which makes sense. But I definitely went through a phase where I was like muting the G string a lot to make some chord shapes like more condensed so that I could move them around. I did that for like a month, and then I was like, all right, maybe I should learn the full chord shapes. That would probably make me a better player. And then I went forward and just kind of kept moving chords around, kept finding inversions for stuff that I thought were cool and kind of funky sounding. But I think in terms of which songs I'm drawn to arrange, it could be a mix of something that I've stuck in my head, something that I think would sound cool on the uke, whether it kind of has some sort of reggae influence or vibe already that I think could kind of feel cool on the uke. Or I take a lot of song suggestions that I get from social media, from people that leave comments on stuff. And sometimes I'm really surprised by how well the songs kind of come out if it's something that seems really outlandish. But I think my style has continued to kind of become my own, which I think is really cool. Because even with, like you said, there's like these classic songs that like a lot of people have arrangements of or something like that. Like I am at the point where like I know if I tackle it, like it'll sound different. And like that's kind of cool because there's like, for some songs, there's only so many ways you can play this song, or there's only like, you know, it's the same chord progression. How many different ways could somebody interpret it? But like, I know like if I sit down with it, I can go, okay, I can make this like, I could jiggy this up for lack of a better term. Like I know how I can kind of spin this to make it sound interesting. But yeah, so I don't know if that answered any of your question. But kind of.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So how often do you run across a song by request or in your own head that you want to figure out that you just can't quite crack the code and make it work? Does that happen often, or?
It's kind of rare, but I actually had that just happen recently, and the song in question is a really funny one. It's actually the song Higher by Creed. Somebody suggested that I do that one, and I really tried like real hard to like do it on high G. I couldn't quite get it. And then I tried it on the baritone, and it was like, that's a little too low. And I think I'm officially stumped on that one, maybe. If I don't change the key and try it in a different key. Because one thing about me is because I learned so direct from just listening to songs and then just trying to figure them out, I pretty much stay in the original key as much as I can. So when it comes to kind of transposing it and trying it in a different key, that's always like the very last thing if I don't just go, nah, whatever. So I think right now Higher by Creed has stumped me. But it's the first time in a while that I've been stumped by a song, I think. Has that ever happened to you? Because I know you arrange stuff too, right? Do you get stumped sometimes?
Yeah, I think I'm probably less determined than you, a little more lazy about it. Yeah, it's not so much that like it doesn't arrange. It's so much that I feel like it doesn't match my feel or my style. Like it just doesn't sit under my fingers well enough to feel like I could put it out there and be proud of it.
Yeah.
But it's like when you set down an exact arrangement in tab or something, it might make sense for me, but it might not work for you. You'd be like, what is he even playing? I don't get it.
Right.
And I think it's one of those things. Like some stuff just works for some musicians and some does not for others, and that's kind of the beauty of music.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're working through something that is giving you trouble, what is like your step-by-step process of like, okay, so it's not working, so what is my next move to try and figure it out? To try and reposition it.
Yeah. Well, I always start on high G. So if I can't get it to really work within the 2 octaves I have on my high G, I switch to a low G and I see if that helps at all. If that extra, maybe I can move the main melody like lower instead of having it be higher up and play it almost on the bottom 3 strings of a low G. If that still doesn't feel cool, I'll jump to baritone. So basically, I just kind of open up my octave range a little bit more to see if I could kind of play around with it. And
this is all in the original key from the recording that you're trying to match.
Correct. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So I exhaust about 3 different instrument sizes before I think about transposing it, which is crazy. So then the next thing I would probably try if it really was like, because also with the baritone, like I love, like obviously I can move the chords around and stuff on the baritone too, but like if I'm just playing all of my chords for a song on the baritone up at the 5th fret, then that's just basically the uke. So like I try to like keep it almost all the chords in their standard position if it's going to be a baritone thing. So if I really can't get it to work, I reevaluate my determination to do the song in general. And then I might try it in a different key and go there. Or maybe there's another take on the song that kind of inspires me a little bit more that maybe is in a different key itself that I kind of am drawn to. I had that happen with what's it called? I just did a arrangement of Ghost Riders in the Sky, and there's a bunch of arrangements, or there's a bunch of covers of that one in all different keys, all different, like one of them has like some cool time signature changes in it too. So when I wanted to arrange that one, I had, because that's also a big Yeehaw cowboy song, so like I knew how that sounded in my head, but I really did a lot of like research and listened to a lot of different versions of it and like kind of drew inspiration from like a few of them. There's of course the Johnny Cash and the Willie Nelson one that like rocks, but there's also a really cool slowed down, almost eerie sounding one by an artist named Susan Christie. That's she's like an artist from the 60s. That's like a really, really awesome interpretation of the song. So sometimes if I'm not feeling it, if it's giving me a challenge, I try to find like another style or something else that I could throw on it before I tank it. But I go through a lot, I think, before I officially can a song. I try to, because then the weirder the song is, if it works out, the better. Because it's kind of funny to find a song that you're like, I can't believe that sounds cool on like a uke, you know? I can't believe that worked out. So yeah, I go through some trials and tribulations. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't arrange a whole lot these days so much, not for solo ukulele, because I'm leaning more on singing.
Cool.
Which, you know, is less purist, but a little easier to work with for a variety of situations. Do you sing at all?
A teensy bit. So, you saw in the Reno one, I closed my set with this silly song. But I like to word it that I can hold a tune, but I wouldn't call it a gift. And that's kind of the way I phrase it. I used to sing when I was actually before I hit my pit orchestra days, I used to do the musicals. And I did I got cast in, now for people who know musicals, this is going to sound like, wow, but I got cast as Cinderella in Into the Woods Junior in 8th grade, which is a mildly big part. And I had a big solo that I had to do, and I was terrified. And I thought I killed it, and I watched the video, and man, I did not do good. So, so maybe I'm a little shell-shocked from my previous 8th grade singing career. But yeah, I like to chalk it up to I can hold a tune, but I wouldn't call it a gift.
So you're predominantly playing solo ukulele and arranging a lot. Are you writing?
I have bits and bobbles here and there, writing stuff. I need to get better at piecing them together, I think. Because they're all very, like, right there. Like, they really, I think if I took, like, 4 or 5 of them, I could make them one song. But right now, they kind of exist in their own little areas. But I do really like to come up with little things here and there. I'm really inspired by, like, video game soundtrack stuff. With the lower voicings, actually, I'm really big into, like, the kind of Skyrim medieval, like, almost tavern sounding songs, if that means anything. But I've also been really interested in a lot of, like, Pokemon, Animal Crossing, these, like, Japanese video game soundtrack stuff I think is cool too. So, but nothing that I've put to the recording yet, but I just kind of have a lot of stuff I sort of mess around with. And also my cat's joined, in case you see her tail, she's here.
Oh, tuxedo cat.
Yes. She's cute. But yeah, so I think a lot of little ideas here and there that I could use some more TLC to kind of staple them together, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have anything that you're inclined what are you excited about right now?
Ooh, just in general?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So I'm really excited about, I'll keep it uke first, and then there's just other stuff I'm excited about. I have some really awesome stuff coming up this year. I'm working on an album. So me to say I don't really record stuff, but then say I'm working on an album. I can't really talk about it too much. But I did get asked to record stuff for an album with somebody, and it's very exciting and really, really cool. So that's coming up this year. I also have some traveling I'm doing for more festivals and performances and stuff. I'll be all over the U.S. I'll be in Washington. I'll be in Pennsylvania. I'll be in Salt Lake City. So that's all really, really exciting that I'm looking forward to. And then stuff I'm just excited for in general. I'm a big movie guy, so really looking forward to the Oscars this year, which is in the beginning of March. My friends and I all really closely follow, like, the Golden Globes were yesterday. We do a lot of Oscar movie prep. We watch all the best picture winners and stuff like that, and we, like, kind of follow the race throughout the year. So that's pretty fun. Looking forward to that. And yeah, I think just kind of growing my uke stuff as much as I can is always priority number 1 too. It's always really fun to just keep arranging stuff, seeing where my own style takes me, and then where all of this takes me physically around the country with this stuff. So it's really, really cool. I'm just excited for a lot of things. A lot of cool stuff coming up.
That's great. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
So when you go to, like, festivals and stuff, what is your favorite thing that you feel like you bring to the party?
Ooh, I think I bring kind of a new, well, I don't want to sound like I bring something people don't see all the time, but, like, I come in as this, like, young girl teaching percussive ukulele. So it's, like, really young person, looks like a 12-year-old boy, and pulls up with this kind of pretty unorthodox way to play the instrument. I think a lot of people, when I first go to a festival, are like, what? What's going on here? And I think by the end of it, people are really opened up and really like to try a lot of the kind of weird stuff. So I think I bring some cool stuff to the table. I don't want to say new because I'm not reinventing the wheel by doing percussive ukulele. But I really enjoy teaching that stuff when I go to festivals. So I do my percussive class, which I call Strum and Drum. At the Reno Uke Fest this year, I also did a new festival that was all about like a new workshop, not a new festival. All right hand stuff, so like triplets and rolls and like kind of intricate but like doable ways to play a lot of like complex rhythms and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to find cool ways to play stuff on the uke, I think. Definitely the percussion, I think, is my favorite thing I bring with me to festivals. But then...
Could you give an example of Strum and Drum?
Oh, I sure can. Let me move my cat, who's jumped back up here. Here you go. Okay, so for Strum and Drum, it's a way to create percussive elements while still maintaining your regular strumming coordination here. So the two main ones that I like to teach are the kick drum and the snare drum. So your kick would be down here on your bridge. I like to thunk my thumb on the bridge. And then for my snare drum, I like to flick just off the top of the body, right underneath the sound hole. So it would be kick was here, and then my snare is here. Snare can also be swapped for a chuck, if you like. But both of them have their place for things. I like both of them. But for now I'll do my snare. So kind of talking about before too with kind of jiggyifying songs that are popular on the uke. One of my more elaborate arrangements, I think, is my arrangement of Sunday Morning. 'Cause it's full percussive chord melody. And I don't know really how I did it either. But I'll show you, and I haven't played it in a while, so it's a great time to bust this out for whatever reason. So here's just a regular strum technique here. And here's it with the percussion. So
that's super cool.
Thank you. Percussion with the chord melody, with just a lot of cool funky stuff. I don't know how much the percussion stuff you could see it might have been down here, but yeah, it's been really cool to practice incorporating percussion with arranging stuff too. That's about as nuts as I've ever gone with it. But kind of talking about how I like to fill the space of my arrangements too. Like if I ever have a little moment, sometimes a little kick or a chuck kind of thrown in there helps to add a little bit of the rhythm. Emulating any kind of rhythm section that's in a song too, because our strumming is our only source of rhythm most of the time at the uke. So anytime I could add kicks or snares or anything like that kind of helps to add a little bit of drums in with it. So yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things that I bring with me on the road is kind of opening up almost this end of the ukulele to doing a little more than just being like the wood. in simplest terms, I guess.
That's classic.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think the percussion stuff is probably my favorite, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you're teaching workshops at these festivals,
Mm-hmm.
and you're teaching on social media. Have you had any kind of like formal teaching training, or are you just winging it and figuring it out as you go?
I've just been winging it and figuring it out as I go.
That's awesome.
I've grown into a teaching style just from doing it on social media, like kind of having a very like what I think is like a layman's term approach to stuff. I think makes information always more accessible. I try to just explain it if you just ask me a question on the street, and I'm like, yeah, I can tell you what that is. It just kind of simple terms. And I think it translates pretty well. And I'm also a silly guy, so if I can ever make something like a phrase, obviously, I mean, Jiggy with Viggy kind of sets the tone for a lot of how I do stuff. But, you know, a lot of my little teaching things that I do are fairly silly. When I teach finger picking, I say this finger does this one does this, and then this one does this. I'll censor myself.
Well, I noticed you have a very classic version of tablature that I was appreciating the other day. Where you're adding emojis to the tab.
Oh yes, I add the emojis to the tab so that you know what finger you're using for where, you know. But
it's very obvious.
Yes, it's very nice and straightforward. We'll say it like that. Yes.
The only tab I've ever seen with a middle finger in it.
It's an educational middle finger.
That's great.
But yeah, so I like to have fun. I like to use emojis when I edit stuff to point out certain things, and yeah, I my handouts that I bring with me to festivals are very colorful and have all kinds of tips and scannable QR codes to videos I've done and stuff like that. So I've definitely come into my own teaching, which is funny because I never really saw myself teaching really. I'm believe it or not, I'm kind of introverted, which just sounds like a joke, but
aren't we all?
Yeah. But like, public speaking, failed it, flunked it, couldn't do it, and like, it's funny, like, kind of making videos online, like, I don't feel it as much, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like I said, maybe part of my brain shuts off how many almost like 300,000 people is on TikTok. Like, I try not to think about it. But kind of my whole vibe going into it was just very like, I'm just putting it up there. Like, it's like I'm sending it to a friend, you know? Like, if you were sending a video of you playing something to like your friend, there's a lot less worry that they're gonna like scrutinize every note you played wrong or thought you played wrong or something like that, because it's just like your friend. So I guess I just kind of immediately was like, well, everyone's gonna be my friend, so I'll just put it online and not care what anyone has to say about it. But I think that's carried me a long way saying that, because it's made me just kind of stay true to who I am and what I like to do, and I carry that through my playing and my teaching. So yeah, whoever wants to learn from me and watch me play, you're more than welcome. But know that you're going to get some middle finger emojis and some silly jokes in there. You know?
That's cool. That's great. And so you have 300,000 people on TikTok. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. It's crazy and it's weird. I'm almost there. I'm at 298 or something. So I rounded up, but that's okay.
That's close enough.
Yeah. Too many people.
Is that your main platform?
Yeah. TikTok's the main one. They might get rid of it, so who knows. But I'm also on Instagram, and then my New Year's resolution is to work on my YouTube a little bit. I gotta probably bulk up my YouTube, especially because who knows what's going on with TikTok. But yeah, so TikTok's the main place. My upload schedule for years over there will scare many people. I would post once a day on TikTok for probably 2 years. But for me, I loved all of it. I loved the video editing and the recording, and I made it part of like my daily routine to just always do something. I have since gone to every other day, which is a little more breathing room for me. But to some people who do like the video stuff online, they're like, that's still insane. Like, I don't know what your problem is. But yeah, so I do like every other day on TikTok. Instagram, I do probably like every other day or so. A little more breathing room over there I give myself. But yeah, so TikTok's definitely the main place, which has been fun to grapple with different demographics too over there.
I'm sure. So how are you generating content ideas for 600 whatever videos? That would be 700 videos in 2 years.
Yeah. So
especially like they're all like bite-sized small things, right?
Yeah. So I kind of grew my video length to the platform. So when I first got on TikTok, it was 60 seconds max. You could not do over a minute. So when I first started posting stuff, it was like, here's how to read tabs in 60 seconds. Here's how to play the uke in 60 seconds, if anyone could do that. Here's how to play this song and whatever. So when I was really limited like that, it was like, had to be songs that only had, I don't know, max 4 chords, right? I couldn't really do anything super elaborate, or had to be something that I could teach and then play that was like repetitive for the whole entire song, because I didn't have the time to go into it too much. Then it went to 3 minutes was the max, and I went, okay, I can actually get a little more like in depth here and go over maybe a chorus and a verse of a song now that I have the time. Now they go up to, I think, like 10 minutes on TikTok, but I've kind of found my sweet spot within like 3 to 5. And when it was every day, a lot of my inspo was coming from either kind of the same that I have now, was something I was listening to, comments, suggestions that I got from people on TikTok for songs and stuff. Or sometimes if I was like truly stumped, I would just see what songs were kind of trending and then make tutorials for those. But I really made sure that I always still did stuff that I enjoyed. And I never really let like any sort of virality kind of sway me. Like, obviously I've had like a few that have gone pretty big, and that's cool, and that's fun when that happens. But I was always kind of good at not letting that kind of influence my style or kind of change how I did things. Just because I knew that was something that like, oh, if I just start chasing like viral highs, I'm going to go crazy. So I was pretty self-aware with that. And I knew that like, if I had a song that went crazy viral, you know, great, but I'll just keep posting how I normally do. And now I just have more people who enjoy that stuff. So yeah, I think it's a mix of like, it was doing requests and stuff, that popular comments I got, or I would kind of do some kind of trending song that was on TikTok, or staying true to what I like to listen to, and I would just do a song that I really enjoyed, and I wouldn't really let anything kind of sway me one way or the other based on how it did or whatever. There was a little point where I would get a little bummed if like a song I really liked didn't do well, and then if a trending song that I didn't even know did good, I'd kind of be like, ugh. But I got over that, I think, because I wanted to put it out there, and I did, even if it was like the kids on TikTok didn't know my Steely Dan deep cut, you know, like, I gotta just like, what do you mean they don't know this song? Like, but it's fine. So, as long as I just continue to just be who I am and play the songs that I like I've always just kind of tried to stick to that as best I can. But yeah, so that's kind of where my song choices came from, especially when I was posting every day. It was like comments and stuff like that. Or if I was truly stumped, I would just play something I was listening to.
That is more than a full-time job.
Yeah.
Sounds like to me.
Yep. Yeah, Viggy HQ is got 14 hats on, and it's just me. We got one employee here.
Nice. So what does a day look like for you when you're creating all this content?
Yeah. So
I mean, are you working 8-hour days kind of thing, or do you have time to cruise?
No, I got time to cruise. Definitely been able to streamline some stuff after having done it for a few years. I teach one-on-one lessons during the week, so I got my my lovely handful of students that I really enjoy teaching. They're all really wonderful. And in between that, I usually, which is also sounds crazy, I usually record what I post that day when it's a video. So I come up with a song or something that I'm gonna do. I might chart it out a day or two ahead, but then when it actually comes time to record it, it's gonna go up just that day, just when I finish it. So that, depending on the song, can kind of take recording and editing it probably like an hour or two. Again, because it's kind of short, and like I keep my silly ramblings in if I have any, and like try to keep the actual shooting pretty streamlined. But then yeah, editing takes the most out of the two of those things, and then I just kind of throw it up. So that doesn't take up my whole day. And then when I'm not recording anything or like that, sometimes I prep songs a little bit ahead. Like I said, like if I'm charting something out. And then usually I just really like to arrange stuff. So when I'm not like recording a video, I'm usually finding some new song to transcribe to keep up my weekly streak. I post my weekly tabs for my Patreon members, so I do the old Patreon thing too, so that's always fun. Working on designing new workshops for them also. We do like one workshop a month over there. And they they help me test run workshops that I then want to teach live. So I'll prep it a few months ahead and then run it with them. Just let them know I'll take their feedback and improve it if I need to. Sorry, I keep bumping my desk. It shakes everything. But yeah, so I think a day in the life of Viggy is kind of like a mix of everything. It's shooting videos, recording them, editing them, doing some fingerstyle transcription stuff, prepping some workshops, throwing my hat in the ring for events and stuff later in the year if I can, and yeah, just kind of getting jiggy all over the place, I think. One thing that I've always been a proponent of too, like with posting stuff online, is just keep putting yourself out there and just ask people stuff if you want to ask them stuff. Like, the worst anybody's going to tell you is no, or they're going to ignore you. Because some of the craziest stuff that's kind of happened has been, like, me DMing Taimane and being like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? She doesn't follow me, or she didn't know who I was. She wrote back, yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay, like, just always shoot your shot is so important. And I mentioned James Hill's Viva La Vida many moons ago. And when I first started performing, I had someone record me playing that because it was part of my set at the time. And I tagged him in it. And, you don't think anything of anything when you tag someone on an app that has millions of users. But he saw it. And, like, that was when he followed me back. And I freaked out for, like, a week and a half about it. And, like, it was so cool, like, that he had seen that, So, like, I think the internet's a bit smaller than we think it is in terms of, like, tagging people and who's going to see it. So if you ever want to collaborate with anybody, like, shoot your shot. Like, do it. Like, it really might pay off. And that is so spectacular if it does, especially with the uke community. It's so collaborative, like, everyone is so into working with other people. Like, it's just so cool. So that if you want to work with anybody, or if you want to make any kind of connection, throw it out there, shoot them that message and see what happens. 'Cause it could really, really turn into something awesome.
Nice. That's solid advice.
Yeah. So that was how half of those on the podcast turned out. It was me on a complete whim being like, hey, I don't know if you're interested at all, but like, and then also, no worries if not, I mean, like, it's okay if you're busy, like, it's fine. And then 9 times out of 10, people are like, yeah, let me know when. I'm like, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you and your content?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, while it lasts, YouTube, and sort of on Facebook. I need to get better getting on Facebook. All under Jiggy with Viggy. So that's Jiggy with Viggy. I also have a website, just jiggywithviggy.com, that has all those links as well. On there, you can find the link to my Patreon website, where you get my whole back catalog of tabs, which at this point is well over 150 songs, with a new one every week too. And I do have some of my catalog available just a la carte too, if you're not a Patreon guy but you want to check out 1 or 2 songs. I have that listed on my website as well. And I think those are the main places you could probably follow me. You could also see where I'm going to be performing and stuff coming up this year. I have that on my website too. But yeah, a little bit of everything. But you could head to jiggywithviggy.com to find it all, though. That'll be the main hub.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Victoria.
Sweet.
This has been great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really nice to meet you, and thanks for listening to me yap a little bit.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is Jiggy with Viggy, also known as Victoria. Want to extend a big mahalo to her for taking the time to sit down and talk ukulele, share some of the enthusiasm around the instrument and teaching and all that good stuff. If you want to find out more about what Victoria does, check out jiggywithviggy.com, or you can check out at Jiggy with Viggy on TikTok, Instagram. You can also catch Victoria on Patreon, patreon.com/jiggywithviggy, and go show some support over there, because with the TikTok ban looming, we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. And if that comes to pass, it's going to impact a lot of content creators and really cut into their ability to do what they do. So, be sure to check out her work on other platforms and subscribe on other platforms, so that if that disappears, then there's options to pivot and still reach an audience on a different platform. So just kind of the way of the world and the internet. We're always moving and changing and pivoting, but just something to keep in mind as a supporter, as an audience, that, these folks who are working to create this kind of content, sometimes things don't work out. And even though it's good content, it doesn't necessarily get the recognition it deserves, or they kind of get stuck in a shadow ban, or could be a lot of things, or the whole platform could be delisted. We don't ever really know. So we're kind of, you work while you can with what you've got, and then when it changes, pivot. But as an audience, it's really great to support on multiple different venues, and you can do that on Patreon and Instagram and jiggywithviggy.com. If you've liked what you've heard on this podcast, consider subscribing on your podcast platform of choice. Otherwise, the Live Ukulele podcast can always be found at liveukulele.com/podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just look it up and it will probably be there. Next month, I should be bringing you folks an interview with Mim, who is one of the great small shop ukulele retailers in the US. Really had a delightful conversation with her, and looking forward to sharing that. Not sure what I'm going to do for the monologue next month, but I'm sure it will be awesome. I'm all stoked and happy to be back making the podcast for sure. My name is Brad Bordessa. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to catch you next time. Until then, ahui ho.